forward on this computer here so we can continue. Thank you guys, everybody, for joining. And again, sorry for the technical difficulties. We should be good from here on out. But we can open it up. You can unmute yourself. But what are some initial thoughts you guys have that came up as you were watching that TED Talk?
First, Amanda, Miss Gill, sorry about that. I want to say it's okay to make mistakes because we as women, we're all about making mistakes and learning from it. So it's okay.
Absolutely.
So no need to apologize.
and you're so right. And we don't know until we try things and do it. So you're so right. Thank you. Miss Williams-Lewis?
Thank you for organizing this. That's one of my favorite TED Talks. I didn't get to watch the beginning of it with you all. But if I'm not mistaken, I do recall one thing that she mentioned that like really stood out to me that I try to implement in my life. And because I have 2 sons, and when she talks about men needing to know how to take care of themselves, like feed themselves, basically just do what people consider domestic duties, right? That always like sticks out in my head. And that's what I try to implement with my boys all the time. So if I'm cooking, my 5-year-old's in the kitchen with me cooking, and now he loves to like season food for me. He thinks he's the best at it. He's okay. But it's like those little things that I try to empower him to do for himself so that he's not dependent on a woman to wash his clothes, cook his meals, and he can actually live alone if he needs to. We'll be surprised that there are a lot of men who don't know how to take care of themselves, and it's not to bash men or anything like that, but I just think because of society and how we were raised, especially culturally for me, my father's Jamaican and my husband's Haitian. So as the woman, traditionally, we're supposed to take care of everything, and I'm all about being transparent. I remember my dad stayed with us last summer, and he would actually have a conversation with me about like, why are you not cooking meals more often? Why is John doing that's my husband's name. Why is John doing all the cleaning and all these other things? It's a lot. So I'm happy to see that we're making progress and that there are men who are feminists.
Yes, absolutely. And great job with the parenting there. That's awesome. And it definitely is so helpful because as we're raising young men, young boys, it doesn't mean that they are like fitting into a certain mold because they know how to cook and clean. So I think that's great. Awesome. Julia?
One of my first initial thoughts, like at the very beginning, like she starts off by telling her story of her friend Lewis, who called her a feminist, but in a negative like context and stuff. And I like how she did that because throughout like the rest of the TED Talk, like she explains why feminism and like why being a feminist is not a bad thing. It's like it shouldn't be looked at that way, like as that way and stuff. And it's true, some people do view feminism as like this terrible thing and like it has like a bad rep, but it's really not like that. Like feminism itself is not. And I like how she shows us that.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think there is definitely that negative connotation that goes along with being called a feminist. And I'm going to throw this question out there. Will you refer to yourself as a feminist? Are you afraid of what people will say about it? Anybody?
No, I don't think you should be afraid to like call yourself a feminist. Feminism means equality, not women over men. And I think that's something that people don't understand a lot of the times. Like usually, that negative connotation that goes with the word feminist or feminism, it's usually because people aren't educated enough about it. They don't know that it actually means equality rather than just like overpowering men, or you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think feminism is a bad thing. I think just like how she says, everyone should be a feminist. Everyone should believe in equality.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I wanted to add on to what Hanadi said. first of all, that was amazing. I have never watched the full thing, so that was awesome. Thank you for this. And yeah, just it was, Hanadi, are you me? You just took the words out of my mouth. Being educated, it's like, it's this big scary word, but nobody cares enough to ask what it actually means, because they're like, ooh, no. But it's like, ask me what a feminist is, and I'm not going to yell at you. I'm just going to tell you what it is. And I think she put it really nicely, like in a very non-scary way when she did the cooking thing, and saying how, like, I'm not sure why men don't know how to nourish themselves. Like, she made it so approachable, being like, yeah, it's as simple as this. Like, why don't men know how to cook? Like, she did it in such an approachable way where it kind of leads people to have a conversation now, instead of being like, oh, you're a feminist, like, you're going to yell at me, women rule. She kind of opened it up, like, oh, actually, you're right. Like, everyone should know how to cook. Like, and it allows them to it's not a big scary word. If you're educated and you really know, like, yes, the feminists in the past had to be vocal, had to be obnoxious, not obnoxious, but like had to be outspoken, because no one was literally listening to them, I think. And they got there. We stand on their shoulders now because they were bold and they were brave, and now they opened areas for us to be the same way. But I don't think it's as scary now. Again, just being educated, and talking about the word with confidence. Like you said, Miss Capra, I'm a feminist. I have no problem saying that out loud. People look at me weird, but I'm willing to explain. I don't just, I'm a feminist, period. Like, oh, I'll tell you about it. Like, this is what I think. This is what I believe. And engaging in that conversation, and not looking down at anybody who judges you, just opening up that dialogue. And she did a really good job at making it an approachable and really memorable with the food thing. I'm never going to forget that. Like, oh my God, yes, men should know how to cook. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why don't they?
Exactly. And my son's 6. That's exactly what I think. Like, who thought of that?
Yeah, she like makes it so like basic and like obvious, and makes so many connections to it, that again is so great for the educational piece. I think that's why this TED Talk is so amazing. So good points, Miss Dunn. Emma?
I thought it was really interesting how at the beginning, after she was saying a person told her that she shouldn't call herself a feminist, how she told the story of how she called herself a happy feminist and added all these things onto it, because like there's such a negative connotation with that word that she felt like she just had to keep like qualifying it in different ways to make it acceptable. And I kind of liked how throughout the whole thing it was sort of like her journey from moving away from having to like change the word and make sure people understood that, well, I'm not an angry feminist, I'm not that kind of feminist, to at the end she was like, yeah, I'm a feminist and it's not a bad thing. And I thought that was like a really cool progression throughout the entire thing.
Absolutely. I think sometimes we feel like we need to explain ourselves with our beliefs, and we don't need to, right? It's that simple. And it's having those hard conversations too with people. Just be like, this is my point of view, this is your point of view, let's figure out where the difference is, type of thing.
Can I just add one more thing?
Mm-hmm.
Emma, just remind, like, Emma, you said angry, like, oh, I'm not angry. And it makes me think of the rep, like the angry Black woman. Like when any Black women speak up, they're known as the angry, the stereotype, when realistically, if you would just look past the stereotype and actually listen, they are assertive, they are confident, and we like that, those are the little things that people immediately shut down, and then they fall into that stereotype. And again, we're missing the education. We're not listening to these people, these intelligent women, specifically Black women, who get literally thrown under everything because, oh, they're angry again. Like, that is definitely something that needs to change, specifically in that aspect. And it's just so infuriating, because like people literally shut their listening ears off, which is so like a 5-year-old to say, but they do, and it's not fair. And everyone is worthy of speaking and using their voice. And if you get fired up, it means you're passionate about it. So listen, don't get intimidated, listen.
I was going to just add on to that, just speaking from as a Black woman and a Black woman's experience. The moment we speak with passion, it comes off as it's considered anger, and people often confuse passion with anger. I don't know why. It's like you don't have the permission to express yourself in any room, at least in my experience as a Black woman. So sometimes you find yourself being quiet when you have something powerful to say because you're afraid of turning someone off or being considered angry. When no, I'm just passionate. Like I really feel deeply passionate about that situation or whatever it is, or I actually have knowledge about it as well.
Misty, Natalie?
I think there's that layer of when an intelligent woman, educated woman speaks eloquently as she did, as we all do, there's a threat of intimidation. And, sometimes people just don't know how to deal with that. So then they'll call them angry. Oh, it's just that angry woman. It's that, old lady, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's always so angry, but that's not really the truth. It's just people are intimidated by our passion and our intelligence. And we need to have them think beyond, we're more than what they see because of their own inadequacies. They can't really see the big picture like we know the big picture. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure which order, but I'm gonna go in my order. So Julia.
I was just thinking that even if we were angry, even if the topic or who we were talking to, we were angry, we have valid reasons to be angry. It's not something that we don't have any reason to be angry, And I think they take this anger as this intimidation instead of actually trying to listen and see where we're coming from, there's so much that happens and we get to be angry about it, because it could happen to our sister, a friend, mother, ourselves. It's important, it's scary sometimes. And I think our anger is very valid sometimes,
Absolutely. Emma.
I was actually kind of just about to say the same thing, but I totally agree with you. And when she said she wrote that thing and everyone told her that it came off as very angry, and she was like, well, yeah, because she is angry. I think the stereotype that all feminists are angry, honestly, I think it's true. All feminists are angry and we should be angry. And I think instead of treating anger like it's this bad thing, it should be like it's justified and it's what propels us to try to make change in the world.
Yes, I love
I
that.
agree, definitely.
Laurie.
And Laurie?
Right. I agree with everyone. I'm kind of hiding right now because I was doing some errands, but I agree with everyone and what everybody was saying. This is I think this is my fourth time watching this because I watched it in Miss Kappa's class, the RAD, and it was amazing. And I'm amazed every time I watch it. But one point that she said that really stood out to me, and I was like, wow, that is true. She said, what did she say? The higher you climb up, the less women you see. And I'm like, wow, that is true. In office before, it was always old white men. You don't see no color, you never see women. And I'm just like, wow. And it's crazy now, 2020, our vice president is half Black and half West Indian. And I'm just like, that's amazing. You see progress happening, but there's still so much to do, but we see it's happening. And it's really amazing because we need to have more representation. And I love how she pointed that out. And also in the comments, I was reading the comments, Rose said, you guys were talking about angry Black women. And as a young Black woman, it's really hard. And when I had I think somebody said they put passion and anger together. Like when I'm passionate about something, I might come off as angry and they're like, whoa, chill, chill. But like, I just want something. When I want something done, you're going to see it in me. That's a lot of women, you know? And it's just, I don't know. It's really crazy how I like how, I don't know who said, I think it was Emma. She said, oh no, it wasn't Emma, it was Julia. She said that we should be angry. And we should be angry. Like everybody, every party. Okay. I guess what my point I'm trying to say is that if you're not white, old, then we should be angry because we're considered the minority and there's so much work for Black people, for feminists. And it's just a lot. I'm like, I'm putting all my thoughts out there, but it's just, I agree with what everybody is saying. It's just amazing. And I am still amazed. I'm gonna watch that TED Talk again because I learn something new every time and she inspires me. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good points.
I saw this thing, I think it is worth sharing, that, you know, the quote is, oh, you're a very intimidating woman. And no, you're not intimidating. They're intimidated. It's not a you problem, it's a them problem. And I think that that's really important to remember, like, especially as a woman, because there's so many situations where we maybe don't say what we want to say or don't express a specific emotion. When on the flip side, it feels like men always express anger. Like that is something that is, they can easily show. That's the only emotion they can really show, actually, that we allow. So I think that, yeah, this is, and I agree with you, Laurie. I learn something new every time I watch this. Miss Dunn.
Not to fire people up. Actually, you guys can get fired up. I wore this sweatshirt by accident, but it just fits in. This is the WNBA sweatshirt. See how it's a female instead of the Jordan? They made it so that's a big thing. And how Laurie Ann was saying how, yes, we have a woman of color as vice president. And definitely progress has been made. But that brings me to the current day, like this week, how much further we have to go and how major institutions think that they can get away with things that social media does help now. And just to tell you what I'm talking about, the NCAA tournament, the basketball tournament in colleges, huge. It's March Madness. You guys have seen that everywhere. So there was a video released 2 or 3 days ago about the men. They're all in a bubble because of COVID. So the men's bubble, I think, is either in Indianapolis or Texas. So they showed the men's weight room, which was basically the size of the Everett gym, filled with like weights and benches and all this fancy equipment. And then they showed the female, still Division I elite women athletes, their NCAA tournaments. It was a rack of weights, one rack. And that was the NCAA is a $1 billion institution who is said to fight for gender equality, because the women have been very vocal. And yet when you are given an opportunity to make equal opportunity weight rooms, I mean, give the kids places to work out, they completely and the only reason why they did anything about it was because it was recorded. One of the players on Oregon, she recorded it and she said, this is what we have. And they said it wasn't about money, it was about space. And then you can watch the video, and then she turned her camera around, it was all the space. So there was so that just makes me, there's so much room to go. But like you said, like speaking up, and she made that video on purpose and the world saw it. And I do want to, speaking about how she said her brother was very masculine and he was her favorite feminist. A lot of the NBA players, Steph Curry spoke up about it. These men who have supported LeBron James wears this sweatshirt all the time. So men are supporting the women's movement and very vocal about it. And I just think, like we said, progress has been made, but we need to continue to call out things that are not equal or not right in that sense. And that was fascinating to me, because on such a huge scale, you still make such a huge mistake, like, which could have been totally like not happened.
Yeah,
So
that's wild. It's hard to believe that that happens. And you're right. We have to speak up and we have to use our voice. Otherwise the change doesn't happen. So that kind of goes back right into the anger piece. And we have to be like upset about that. That's not, that's not equal. That's not fair. And something that kind of uh, triggered me was when she made that connection to you should be successful as a woman, but not too successful, otherwise you'll threaten the man. And I just think it's just wild. I mean, someone even like myself, like I work really hard. I'm always like doing things to kind of like progress, to like make things better, to help, to collaborate, all this stuff. And I just think like, how is that okay that like we can't work, we can't be too successful, or that's threatening. Like that's not, that's not equal. But yeah, just kind of make that connection to what you said.
Miss Williams Lewis, we see you. We're ready for your.
I have a couple of things I wanted to say. One thing I try to live my truth of my life by now is I'm responsible for my words, not other people's actions. Not to make myself uncomfortable, to make someone else comfortable. So those are two things that I try to keep in my mind. Another thing about not the WNBA, but the what is it? The NCAA. I'm not into sports, so I'm sorry. The NCAA. This is another reason why women need to be at the table as well, because of course that mistake would happen because there's not a woman in the room that's going to advocate and say this is what women need. A lot of times men miss the mark because they're not women, so they have no perspective on what do female women need. Like I'm pretty sure someone probably thought women don't work out. Like, oh, they don't need that. They're not gonna go work out. They're probably just gonna hang in the room. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure if there was a woman at the round table during these conversations, she could have mentioned that. Would she have been heard? I have no idea, but typically that's what happens. Like men are not thinking about those type of things, and that happens in everywhere in the workplace. And I think sometimes as women, that's why we're afraid to advocate for ourselves as well, because men can't understand. And I don't know if I should say this now or save it for Wednesday. We're having a panel discussion, but I'll just mention it. I think another thing that we struggle with as women as well is advocating for ourselves in the workplace, especially when you realize, like as a parent myself, I'm trying to do two jobs always at once, like taking care of my family and taking care of work, because I feel like someone's is looking at me and thinking that I'm not working hard enough. So I find myself reading to my son at night, but I'm on my phone like looking at emails, and I have to remind myself, like, Sophia, work will be there at 6:30 in the morning, read to your son. So like those type of balancing, it's hard. It's really hard. You don't want to take time off from work. You think you're gonna miss something. We have a lot to think about.
Yeah, it's that second shift, that second shift of going home and then doing everything. And I think I'm with you. Like I'm sometimes like, I'm going to miss something. I'm going to fall behind. I'm not doing enough. And then I'm like, no, be present, be where you are, be with your son. Like he needs you more. He'll learn from you this way. So yeah, it's crazy. That's the other pressure that's put on women, is that if you're good at work, you're bad at home. If you're good at home, you're bad at work. You're always going to be questioned. Why are you a stay-at-home mom? Why are you working? Which is a hard thing. Miss Dina Talley.
Oh, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
I forgot that T-shirt. You're on mute. So speaking to that, Sophia, thank you for bringing that up. Is if there's anything that I could advise young, beautiful women that are on this screen, is that work-life balance. And we have heard it so much in the past year, where, work-life balance became very challenging because we were all working from home, but you were living in the home that you were still trying to take care of, and, juggling more than just 3 balls in the air. There were multiple. And, woulda, coulda, shoulda, if I could turn back the clock, how I would have done things so differently. Not that I regret them, but it's just the way times were. So I am, and I'm going to put this out there, and a workaholic, in the sense that, the work ethics that were instilled in me and all of my siblings was that you really have to work hard so that people would never say, oh, she's lazy, she's this, she's that, or just giving back to the world, you have to work hard. I grew up in a family. I mean, my dad owned a company. All we did was work. I've been working every single day of my life since I was 12. And so when it comes time to take care of your children, I didn't always read to my son when he was little, and that kind of breaks my heart. And so, Ms. Capra, read to your children, read to your son, and Sophia, read to your children. And, all of these beautiful young ladies, Miss Turner, read to Joy, and Miss Dunn, you can read to the Peloton. But you just have to, you have to do that, because it's, it's not that it's a regret. It's just, I wish I had spent more time, but later years, taking care of my elderly parents, it's, I was working so much that I may have missed, opportunities to just sit with them and just sit and just do nothing. And, so yeah, work-life balance. And it's that guilt that we grew up with, right? It's the guilt of, does this job ever stop? Because I feel like this job, this position, I don't know if it's, I sit here and I think, is it because I'm a woman and I have to prove to, back in the day, this position was all men. It was unheard of to have a woman in this position until, Gloria Finnegan, thank God, but they gave that position to her as a token. And then I think I was just the second, back then we were under a different name. We were class masters before we were dean of students. And I was just the second one. And I felt like I had to work to prove myself because I was a woman. I wasn't one of the guys in the suits. And no offense to any of the gentlemen that I worked with, it was just a competition within myself maybe. But yeah, turn off the computer. I think I told a couple of you, like, I totally didn't turn my computer on for a whole weekend. But Sunday night anxiety of like, oh my God, I gotta go check. And what if there was a crisis? And what if I didn't check? And, everybody has to just succumb. And so now this white box of tissues is really just a white cloth of throwing it in as surrender. So I surrender. You just have to surrender. And that's what it's about. But, if I can say anything to these beautiful young ladies, at some point when you have children or you're taking care of just yourself, take care of yourself, because self-care is the most important. Don't let any job take you to a level where you are not happy anymore. And some of that's just, some days we're just not happy anymore because the job is taxing, and it shouldn't have to be that way. So, and I'm old enough that I can say that. So just saying.
You earned it, Lucy. Miss Dina Tully.
Absolutely. Every second, every minute. Well said. We want to go with a question, maybe?
Sure. So really, we sent out a couple questions to our members, but we're going to pose them obviously to everyone. I think one of the big things that she does during this TED Talk is give a lot of anecdotes about her own experiences. She talks about the money and about how men, the cooking was a big one, these stereotypes that we see. And what do you think? I mean, we've talked about it a little bit. What do these stereotypes do to men and women? We talked about the anger. What does it do to men on the other end of it? If we're truly going to be equal and have this discussion, what do these stereotypes, what box does it put them in? Anybody?
I have I'm one of 8. I have 4 brothers and 3 sisters, and my house was your typical gender role house. I mean, at the time, it made sense if you're gonna like, 'cause it was like a small little army. So yes, the boys should be taking out the trash, mopping the floors, and the girls can clean, wash the dishes. One thing I hated though, sorry, I know this is being recorded, is cleaning the bathroom. Because boys in the bathroom, no bueno. That should not have been a girl, a woman's job. But one thing I do think it does to men, it causes them to shut down and not know how to express themselves. And that's a challenge when you're an adult, especially when you are in a relationship, whether you're in a romantic relationship, whether you're in a relationship at work, whatever it may be. There's so much miscommunication that happens because men, or not all men, but some men are not taught how to express themselves correctly, that there's so much miscommunication that happens. Another thing that I think that happens with for men, at least in my experience, they like I one of my brothers, he's 5 years younger than me. His passion was cooking. Like that was his passion, it was cooking. But because of the gender stereotype, he was not allowed to cook. So because of that, he ended up going down a different path where he needed support to get back on the correct path. So I think sometimes putting young men into boxes is the reason why they have some of the outcomes and experiences that they have. That's just my personal opinion and from my experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I tell the story to my rad class, being very transparent with them. My ex-husband, I didn't realize until I saw him and his mother interact what he expected from me. So how she would like bring him his dinner and, you know, do certain things in the way that she spoke to him, or he would leave like a teacup on the counter and she would clean the teacup up. And like, that was just normal for him because it's what she did for him. And it wasn't until I saw their interaction that I was like, oh, that's what he thinks I'm gonna do, but that's not gonna happen. So like, it's that kind of thing too, where you see it and it's kind of how they're raised and how they're brought up. And like you said, we don't let them have emotion. Boys don't cry, be a man. All of those things that we say to them, and it just kind of shuts them down and makes them angry.
And again, I think it brings it back to the educational piece and people being open to being educated about, you know, gender roles and equality within them. So we're making progress, definitely. So we have one last question to kind of wrap us up. We've kind of touched a little bit upon it, but she says her own definition as a feminist is a man or a woman who says, yes, there's a problem with gender as it is today, and we must fix it. We must do better. All of us, women and men, must do better. Do you agree with this definition? And what would you change about it if you did? What do you guys think?
I don't really know if there's anything I'd change, but I like how she incorporates men and women, because I feel like a lot of people believe, oh, men can't be feminists. That's only a woman thing, you know. But they can, and I think that opening up that conversation is important. It's like you can be a feminist too. It's not something that like your friends should make fun of you or whatever. Like it should be more normalized. And yeah, that's kind of like my thoughts on it. And like I just really like her definition. It's like inclusive to everybody, and it's like it's not something that it's like, oh, we're arguing, we're fighting with men. No, we're asking them to solve the issue, because yes, a lot of it does come from like how they were raised and like what they believe and like what society expects from them. But like they are the solution to all of like a lot of the issues today.
Absolutely. You're so right.
So
yes.
I was just going to say, I feel like way back when feminism became a thing, and I was a young girl at then, like the word feminism. And it was really about, and I think this is where the information, the education piece was missing. We all thought as young girls to be a feminist was, okay, you don't wear a bra anymore, you don't shave your legs, you don't shave under your armpits anymore, you're just all natural, you don't take a shower, you don't, like, that's being a feminist. And I think that whole, like, so it wasn't a guy thing, it wasn't a male, it wasn't, males could not be feminist. And I think the miscommunication and miseducation about what a feminist was has really come, we're at such a better point right now that it is. And if we don't all open this up for discussion, it's not just a female conversation or just a male conversation, it's all of our conversation. And I think once that gets on the table, I just think relationships in general will be better because everybody will be able to feel comfortable in their own skin to be able to have that conversation. And as for Ms. Capra, I think making the courageous decision by setting him free, by setting yourself free, set him free, because there will be someone who will dote on him the way he was brought up. But that is, if, you know, I was your daughter or I was your mom, I would be so proud of you because you knew to set him free, because you were not going to be happy for yourself. And there's no need to stay where you're not happy just for the sake of being there or what will people think. So that was a very courageous step for you. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
For sharing as well. Sorry, I know there's two students who have their hands raised, but I think sometimes as women, we're even afraid to say the D word. Like that means like I wasn't good enough.
Yeah, there's that stigma with it.
There is a stigma. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but look how strong we are. We're women warriors.
Mm-hmm. True story. Yasmin, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, speaking on what Julia said, I feel like a lot of boys, they would identify as feminists, but I feel like they're embarrassed to do it because people like perceive it as something girly or something that only girls can be, and they're just like, they want to like say that they are, but they're just too scared to.
Yeah, I think that's super valid. And again, another stereotype that they probably are associating with. And maybe that's something that we can help, our club can help work on that within our school community, you know, of not having that stigma around them. Thanks for sharing. Anne-Laurie?
I guess one thing that I could change is, I mean, normalizing women in power. You know, I feel like when they, how do I say it? Like if a woman is in power, then they, like, when people hear that somebody is in power and they're a woman, they're like, oh, like, you know, they're surprised. Like, why are you surprised? It's just as the same as a man being in power. And I guess, like, I don't like it when people are like, I know, so I do this job for Girly Adrian, and she's a city councilor here in Everett at large. And when I talk about her, people are like, oh, she's councilor. I didn't, like, they're surprised that she even made it. And she's thinking about going higher up. And like, there is a person that has been, you know, like when it's up against a man, they don't think that she can do it, especially as a Black woman, you know? And I just hate how people like, when like even Kamala Harris, like I know she is the first Black and West Indian like person in power, woman in power, but like, why are we so surprised that this is actually happening? This should be normalized, you know? And I don't know, I don't really like it, you know, but I mean, what can I say? I guess that's one thing I could change. Like, I can't really think about anything right now, but that's one thing.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else have any other last thoughts? Well, this was so fantastic. Thank you guys so much for joining our kickoff event to the week. I think this was a very important conversation and one that we can have more every day, every single day, even little conversations between two people is helpful in kind of, again, changing those stereotypes and educating people, men, male and female, around gender equality and the word feminism. Let's see how many times we can use the word feminism and teach someone about it and what it means, and just use our words to educate people. So thank you so much for joining our event. We have more events this week. We'd love for you guys to tune in, just to kind of give a promo for you guys, and you can help spread the word. The Wave is hosting tomorrow a self-defense discussion that Miss Capra is going to lead for us, and I'm going to help support her in that. So we'd love for you guys to join us in that. Wednesday, we have a Sheroes of the Community panel. So Sheroes, women in leadership within our own school building and our own city, that will be talking, and we're so excited to hear from them. Thursday, we have a creative jamboree, so celebrating women through the arts, so poetry, spoken word, music, art. We're so excited about that. And then Friday, our finale will be a panel with women leaders in a global network panel. So we're really excited to have all of these fantastic events that we can participate with you guys in. And of course, we are running our period project, which, if you guys haven't heard, is going super well, and it's going super well because of all the support around it. So if you haven't seen our flyer, we can share it with you. It's up on our Wave EHS Instagram account. You can share it, you can screenshot it, send it to your friends. There's a link in the bio. We would love to have support around that as we're looking to educate around menstruation, but also provide all those resources for the females in our community. So fantastic. Thank you guys so much for joining. Ms. Capra, do you have anything else?
Just thank you guys for joining and speaking and sharing your stories and opinions. It's hard to do. So kudos to you. And yeah, we hope we see you tomorrow. Come tomorrow. We're going to have another really interesting talk about things that women do to stay safe, and just do some basic things on self-defense. So tune in, be part of it, be in the Zoom, because we all do these things. Women are all afraid, which is not great. But thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much. Have a good afternoon. Thanks for joining. Thanks for sharing.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Guys.
Thanks, Sophia. Oh, I missed her. All right, let's log off.